Today, Gaming America is speaking with Dylan Robbins, the founder and CEO of Lucra Sports, a new type of peer-to-peer sports betting app that has a novel approach to betting, one where you're not betting against the house, but against contemporaries. Mr. Robbins, thank you for speaking with us today.
Hey, thanks for having me, Cameron. Excited to be on.
Excited to have you. Before we get into the Lucra platform, I was hoping you could maybe just give us a bit of background about yourself, your time in the industry, and how you've arrived where you now are.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm born and raised in New York City, a diehard New York sports fan. So my Knicks have been letting me down for most of my life, but that's okay. It was a big part of growing up. I've got two younger brothers, and sports is a big part of our family. I went to Duke undergrad, studied economics there. I met my wife there who worked for the Duke basketball team. So when I told her I was starting a sports wagering company, she was supportive, as she's also an avid sports and basketball fan. I worked in traditional finance for a number of years at Goldman Sachs and at a hedge fund before really deciding to become an entrepreneur. And with Lucra, it was an idea that I had for almost a decade. I actually tried to launch Lucra when I was an undergrad at Duke, but the legal landscape just wasn't there yet. And so we were just waiting for the right time because we knew the need in the market was real. So we started Lucra in September of 2019, and I've been, working in the industry and driving at this problem ever since.
Cool. And moving on to Lucra itself, I was hoping you could explain to our viewership sort of what it offers, what it does, what niche it fills in the market.
Yeah, I think the great part about Lucra is you really want to start with the problem. And the problem is that there's not a platform built for casual sports fans. Everything that I think is out there in the market right now is focused towards capturing the incredible demand of the avid gambler, which there are many of. That being said, there are many more common sports fans who love to watch a game or love to go to a bar with their friend and engage in sports that have a yearning for friendly competition. They're just not excited about the current platforms in the market. And so Lucra comes trying to solve that problem of creating a legal platform in as many states as we can with a social and approachable ethos. Make it Dylan versus Cameron, fun, gamified experience. And that's really the goal of Lucra. So what is Lucra? Lucra is a peer-to-peer. So as I mentioned, friend versus friend, or as you mentioned, one person versus a contemporary sports wagering platform for real money, where you engage in player-based contests. So think, LeBron James versus Kevin Durant points, or Tom Brady versus Aaron Rodgers touchdowns. And what's cool about that is since we only use two players, it's A, more simple, but B, more customized, because you can now go across sport. So instead of picking a roster of many, many players, I could say, hey, Cameron, I think Tiger Woods is going to have more birdies than Steph Curry is going to have three-pointers. So even if we're fans of different sports, as long as we match up these players head to head, we can both engage in that experience. And I think what's cool about it is it's quick, touch, and easy, but it's also very social. The gamification, the smack talk, the chatting, and that's really stuff we're trying to amplify in the new version of our product we're putting out this summer, is even digging deeper on those social aspects.
So the real-time communication over the app, basically.
Yeah, and I think right now we have commenting and liking, and actually what we're trying to build is interesting. To share some feedback, we talked to a ton of our customers, and they said, look, I've got a lot of chatting apps, right? I chat on iMessage, I chat on GroupMe, I chat on WhatsApp. I'm not sure I want another chatting app to chat about sports. What would be great is if you could bring Lucra into those platforms, right? Like, how do I embed Lucra into iMessage? So we're working on some features now to allow our contests to be embedded within the places that our users are already communicating. So the wagering will happen through Lucra, but a lot of our interaction is going to happen actually through their existing communication platforms.
That's interesting. Do you need then to strike deals with those platforms?
So luckily, Apple is the easiest because they allow you to create like a plugin, right? And most apps have one now, ESPN, et cetera. And you can create a plugin that when someone downloads your app, they also just in the background download your plugin. So that right now, I can text you a Lucra wager. About half of our wagers are sent through SMS because it's a quick, easy way, and it's just a static link. It'll just say Dylan sent you a contest. With this new plugin, it'll be an animated graphical link that'll show you the headshots of the two players and allow you to accept that wager right from your iMessage. So you won't even have to come to the Lucra app to engage with that type of content. So the goal is like try to meet the users where they are versus building something and spending a ton of money on customer acquisition to try and bring them into us.
Yeah. Which leads well into my next question. How has reception been? And are there parts of the country where the audience has been more receptive, we've been more successful, et cetera?
Yeah, I think reception's been really strong. As you know, where Lucra's coming out of our stealth mode now. So we soft launched the product in September. We didn't spend any money on marketing. It's been all word of mouth. One of our most exciting stats is that 90% of our customers have been referred from another customer. So we're seeing that social network kind of building, which gives us a lot of validation for our thesis that, you know, sports is really a friends-based engagement opportunity and a fan engagement opportunity. To your question around certain markets, I think unsurprisingly, the big cities have been quite popular for us. You know, San Francisco, New York, some cities in Texas, Illinois, and Florida. That being said, we have a very strong and active campus ambassador program. Lucra's 18 plus, and so we're really focused around targeting younger demographic as well. And we're at over 55 schools across the country. So that's given us a little bit of a diversified map. Some lower volume states we're actually doing quite good volume due to our campus program there.
So for the record, you don't have to be only in states that allow online sports betting. This is a completely different kind of model that is not really similar to the big operators or the small operators for that matter. Correct.
The key difference is Lucra operates as a skill-based game, which is viewed differently than games of chance, which is why you don't see things like odds or spreads from Las Vegas on our platform. It's why you only see player-based from our platform. It's why we're not the house and you only see peer-to-peer wagering on our platform. There's lots of things in that regard that really separate us from the traditional sports betting operators, which allows us to operate in some other states, where we were never the first to enter a state. Lucra's a new business. We're always going to follow other skill-based games to start, but where we've seen other skill-based games operating and we've seen legislation and other things pass in those states.
Yeah, and would you say that the success in whatever markets you're most successful in, does that mirror sort of the legality of sports betting with the big operators?
That's what we thought would happen, right? A big part of the value we thought was, hey, let's go and operate in some exciting states where there's not a lot of competition. But it hasn't necessarily been the case because it's such a social business. We may acquire a user in San Francisco who plays with their friends in New York, where they're legal have sports betting. And I think that what's been more exciting is to really see the demographic of customer that we found, rather than the geography. So, Lucra is about 22% women right now, which is incredibly exciting. Very different, diverse demographic. About when we survey customers, over a third of them are new bettors. They never placed a wager before placing it on Lucra. And I think that's because they feel, okay, I'm no longer placing against the house. There's not misinformation. I feel like this is, I have a chance, right? It's Dylan versus Cameron on a pretty fair contest that we create together, right? So the user generated piece of it, I think, adds a lot of safety and security. And so more than the geography base, it's really been the demographic that we've seen of this casual fan. Of course, you've got plenty of fantasy sports players and, more avid folks on there as well. And they're good for liquidity, right? You want, that activity on the platform. So it's good to have kind of a blend of consumers.
Sure. Moving on ever so slightly, what about the licensing deals? Because you said it's a game of skill. I guess you don't need to go through all these hurdles and hoops that other betting companies do, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's a big value from a CapEx standpoint. We obviously had to do, I would say, as much if not more legal work to be in our legal standing. So we got legally opined to operate as a skill-based game in these states with some of the best lawyers in the country. AML policy, KYC, information security, compliance team, pattern recognition, transaction monitoring. Like, we have done a tremendous amount of compliance and legal work. We just, as a skill-based game, don't have to get the gambling skin or traditional sports betting license. So I would say we spent a lot of money and time over 18 months working on our legal side of our business. But as we scale, it's definitely beneficial from a capital expenditure standpoint to operate the way that we do.
Sure. What about marketing? What is your approach to marketing? I mean, I know, not to keep comparing you to the other big ones, but
no, it's okay.
But they spend so much money to buy users, and what do you have to do?
Yeah, so I'll walk you through our go-to-market strategy a bit. So Lucra is built on the fact that we want to build an economically sound business, and we want to keep CAC low. And I think the way you do that is you've got to build. First of all, it's got to be product-led growth. You've got to build a platform that incentivizes referrals, every time we get a Cameron, we got to have Cameron invite 5 friends, right? And that's we're already seeing on average our users invite 2 friends on average. So with our kind of MVP over the product, so we're confident with our new feature growth, we can even drive that number higher. That being said, I think we're looking at our marketing in 3 buckets. First is we're going to do some traditional paid media in our own way. We're not going to go spend, hundreds or thousands of dollars a customer, but we're going to definitely get the Lucra name out. Right now, we're coming out of stealth, so think of some of the big social platforms that you're familiar with. Number 2 is this campus program. We're going to grow it from 55 schools to 250 this year. So really try to expand the footprint, grassroots. It's lower cost. I mean, we're spending dramatically less per customer there than any of our other channels. And then 3, probably what we're most excited about is our partnerships. Lucra, especially being able to operate in these states that maybe traditional gambling entities cannot. There's some really unique partnership opportunities with teams and leagues and brands and corporates, and we're looking at some really creative stuff right now. So I think that'll be a great way to not only build our brand but also inspire user acquisition.
Sure. A few other questions, I suppose. How about, do you feel the need to put in sort of problem gambling safeguards and things of that? And if so, what do you do? How do you address
100%,
that?
100%. It's really important to us. So luckily, Lucra is built around small wagers. So Lucra's average wager size is about $15. The goal is not to bankrupt your friends or pay your rent with it. So that's good. Innately in our platform, we are built around just fun, casual ethos. That being said, it's a free market platform, so you do see larger wagers. We've done a couple of things. First of all, the max wager on Lucra is $500, much less than any other site I've seen. Just really trying to keep it friendly and fun. That being said, if your version of friendly and fun is $200, we don't want to block you from doing that. And then of course we have strong responsible gaming practices. Deposit limits, withdrawal limits, play limits, those types of things. Access to support, through 1-800-GAMBLING and so on and so forth. So we're very focused on it, but we're trying to almost get ahead of it by building in features and building in an ethos that is more casual and fun to really even hammer that point home even more.
Yeah. And I guess since you're not the house, do you just take a percentage of what is being passed? That's how it works?
Yeah, so Lucra is indifferent to the winner, which I think is an amazing thing for our users in that we don't pick a side. We're rooting for everyone. We like to say we love ties. We love ties because ties mean that both users get to engage, have a great experience, and they get their money back, and Lucra makes no fee on that. So Lucra does take a 5% transaction fee only from the winner. And I think that's really important to stress because when you talk to new bettors, they don't want to pay when they lose, right? They feel like, wait, why am I paying for this service? I already lost, right? And so if you and I made a $10 wager and you lost, just lose your $10. That's your fee is that you lost the bet. I would pay 5% on the $20 pool. So the winner pays the fees, which has been really well received. And I think the 5% has been also quite well received and that it's a bit lower than what we are generally seeing in the market.
Sure. I wanted to ask about peer-to-peer betting generally, because you do hear, you're not the only one out there. Two-part question. How do you feel Lucra distinguish itself from other peer-to-peers? Also, do you think that perhaps peer-to-peer is it encountering trouble on a larger scale? I know it was supposed to be the next big thing a few years ago. And do you see that panning out the way that originally been expected to?
Yeah, so I'll take both questions. I think one is there are a couple other players in the peer-to-peer space, which we're excited about. It's a rising tide rises all ships situation. We think working together to grow the peer-to-peer marketplace is important. Lucra is very an early mover in the sense of expanding into these new states and really operating on a large market scale, but more importantly, really driving home the social and approachable ethos. When I really look in the market, we are doing, I think, the best job, and we're going to continue to do a better job in this new version of our product of really driving home social and approachable. And I do think peer-to-peer is here to stay. Obviously, we've bet our business on it, and I think this is just the first inning. I think it took a little bit longer for the proliferation of peer-to-peer wagering, mostly due to legality. We needed things like PASPA to be repealed, and just more states to get more comfortable with these other types of games. But I do think that the future of peer-to-peer is not just in sports. As we think about Lucra, sports I think is an entry point for us. And I think there's a lot of opportunity to expand peer-to-peer outside of sports. You see these casual bets happening all the time offline on non-sports related items. You know, you and I play in a game of cornhole, or we're at the bar and we're playing shuffleboard. And I think there's a huge opportunity in the skill-based arena to expand. So I think you'll see Lucra in the coming months and years focus outside of sports to even grow the size of this market even further.
Is that right? Outside of sports?
Yeah.
It's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
So recently I read you raised $10 million. Is that correct? In Series A
That's correct.
funding.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you could just talk a little bit, if you could, about sort of what kind of investors are drawn to this idea.
Yeah, no, I think it's one of the most exciting things about our business is we went sports focused all the way. Like this is a business where you want your investors to really understand your product, understand your market, understand the legal complexities, and we really focus on bringing in those right people. So I would say it's kind of a mix of traditional venture firms that focus on sports betting or the sports ecosystem. So we have Raptor Group and 76 Capital, and then also Victress Capital, three fantastic firms there. And then we have a bunch of team owners who are really excited about how Lucra can engage their fans, right? I think what's exciting for these team owners and what's exciting about these team partnerships is how do you keep the fan in the arena when it's 7-1 in the bottom of the seventh inning? It's a hard thing to do. Either they're, eating hot dogs or drinking beer, or they're betting on the game, right? And what if we can help them do both? What if we can help engage that user to create a Lucra wager and then take their winnings and reinvest it on a hot dog, right? And we're working on all these really cool ideas to keep people engaged at the game. And then we have some really exciting high-profile athletes in our round that are going to be helpful to build our brand and also just part of our ecosystem. So it's really a sports-focused cap table with folks who understand our space.
Cool. Well, that leads to my final question. Well, where do you want to be 18, 24 months from now?
Yeah, I think that Lucra plans and is excited to be, the name in peer-to-peer wagering. I think, as you said, it hasn't happened yet, right? I think there's an open road. Someone can come in and grab this huge market share. We think, there's 100 million people who really want to wager on this product. Maybe there's 200 million people who wager in the US. There's probably 50 to 100 million potential customers for Lucra over the next couple of years. And we want to go capture that as much of that market as we can. So I think you'll see kind of two things from us. One, us really establishing our brand with these partnerships. You'll see us more in the news. You'll see our brand being established. And two, I think you'll see some cool new features from us. I think you'll see that sports is just the beginning, and we're going to launch some cool things to really make other customers feel comfortable who say, hey, I don't know much about sports, but I know a lot about this, or I know a lot about that. And let's try and, leverage that to create a really fun and safe platform.
Yeah, super. Well, good luck to you. This has been Dylan Robbins. Yeah, this has been Dylan Robbins, CEO and founder of Lucra Sports. Thanks for speaking with Gaming America today.
Thanks, Cameron.